friend, welcome back to our channel. I am so glad that you are here today. My name is Amanda. I am the co-owner of Slow Foods Kitchen, where we make vegan snacks for part-time vegans just like yourself. You can find them online on our website, Walmart, Amazon.com, and if you head down to the description box below, you will find a freebie, so check that out. All right. If you are becoming a vegan, going vegetarian, or simply looking for more plant-based options, you've probably heard of tofu. And your first thought might have been, I don't like tofu, tofu is gross, tofu is bland, tofu is blah. Well, first of all, tofu will absorb the flavor of any spice that you give it. So that's super cool, so you can make it taste like anything you want. However, plain tofu could actually be really, really good, but it is hard to find that because just like many other foods in the grocery store, tofu has become very processed and automated. Not just processed in terms of like processed food, but the automations to create the tofu take away from even just the flavor of tofu. And so that's why today I'm going to show you how you can make tofu. But before you make tofu, we need to make soy milk. The reason you want to make your own soy milk is because when you make the milk, we're going to actually curdle it, and those curds are what forms the tofu. But when you buy soy milk in the store, it has anti-coagulants in the milk. So you cannot take a milk that is made to not coagulate and put a coagulant in it and expect tofu. And so that's why we're making our own homemade soy milk today, so that in our next video we can learn how to make tofu. Are you ready to get started? Great. The first step to making soy milk is to buy soybeans, and I have bought these guys off of Amazon. I will put the link in the description box below. The reason I chose these soybeans is because they are UST organic. I will buy some things that are organic, but when it comes to soybeans, I do highly recommend that you go for organic beans. Okay, next step. Making soy milk is a pretty simple process. You soak the beans, you blend them with water and cook the beans. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So I've started with 1 cup of dry beans. This is also 1 cup of beans that have soaked overnight. And yes, they do need to soak overnight. That's an important step. So I'm going to soak these beans so that I can make more soy milk later. That's it. So we're just going to put these aside and let them soak. Now we're on to the next step. See, we're on to step number 2. I would highly recommend that you also use filtered water, because when you soak the beans, they're also going to soak up the flavor of the water. So if you're using tap water and your tap water maybe has a lot of chlorine in it or other not so tasty things, your soybeans could soak up that flavor. All right, our next step is to take our soaked beans and we are going to remove the hulls. This is a pretty simple step, but it is important to do. So I have put my beans into a bowl and I'm going to add some water. And so now I'm just going to gently rub the beans in between my hands. And because these have soaked overnight, the hulls are going to come right off. So we're not going to be super rough, but we're going to just gently rub them until the hulls come off. This can sound really tedious, but it's actually pretty simple. This is why I put the beans into a bowl of water, is because as I remove the hulls and the skins, they will float to the surface and the beans will sink to the bottom. So I'm going to do this for just a couple minutes and get most of the hulls off. If you don't get them all off, it's not okay. We just want to get most of them off. And if you have loose beans, just pick those up. Okay, so I have only done this for about 1 minute. I've rubbed my beans with the hulls, and so now I'm going to separate the hulls from the skin. So there's a couple ways to do this. You can take a, what do you call this? Ladle strainer. I'm sure there's a name for it, I can't think of it. And you can scoop the holes. They just float right on the top of the water. Just like that. And we're gonna get all the holes out. But I'm gonna show you a way easier way. So come with me, we are going to the sink. If you've ever bought rice and your rice had some animals in it and you've floated them out of your rice, this is the same concept. If you haven't done that, that's okay. So because the holes are lighter, they are going to float and come out. So I'm just going to pour this water out and let the holes separate. That's it. Add some more water. Gently stir up the beans so that the holes come to the surface. And if you lose a few beans, that's okay. We'll pick them out of the sink. And that's it. So I've done this twice and I already have most of the holes out. Do this as many times as you like until you feel like there's enough holes. Again, it doesn't matter if you don't get them all out. It's not a big deal. Okay, so now we have our beans with most of the holes out. Okay, now that we have our beans and the holes have floated mostly to the top, let's head back over to the counter and do the next step. Okay, so this is our next step. We're going to take our soaked beans, we've rinsed them and drained them and remove the holes. Put them right into your blender. This is going to be so good, I promise. All right, we're going to add We're going to add 5 cups of water. Again, we are using filtered water because we want our soy milk to have a nice fresh taste. All right, so the next step is to blend these. We don't want them to blend for minutes and minutes and minutes, but we don't want them to just pulse for 30 seconds. We want the soybeans to be fairly chopped up, but we're not going to just set it and forget it. So I'm going to let this go, let's do about a minute. Only let these blend for 30 seconds. My timing is off. I'm just going to take a peek and see how it looks. It looks pretty well ground up. Let's do 10 more seconds for good measure. So there we have it. We are almost done with our soy milk. So at this point, we want to strain the okara, which is the ground up beans, from the milk. You can do this now or you can do this after we boil the milk. I like to strain it first because if you wait till afterwards, it's just hot. The milk is very hot, so it just makes it harder to strain. So I'm going to take a pot and cheesecloth. And as always, all of the tools that I use with links to where you can find them and the full recipe will be in the comments below. So I'm going to put this cheesecloth into a pot and just pour it in. So we are going to strain the okara, which is again the ground up soybeans, from the actual milk. We want to have this removed so our tofu comes out really soft, and if you're just drinking soy milk, you have a nice smooth soy milk. You can save the okara, you can compost it, you can feed it to your chickens. There's actually a lot of recipes that you can use it to make with. It has a lot of fiber in it and some protein. It's a great way to be more sustainable and not have any waste. I have not yet experimented with a recipe using okara, but I think today might be a good day. So we're just going to do this for a couple minutes. You want to squeeze out as much soy milk from the pulp as possible because we're making soy milk and we don't want to leave any milk unused. So our next step is we are going to boil the soy milk for 5 minutes, and then we'll turn the heat down and let it simmer for about 10 minutes. So our goal is to cook the milk, and it will also remove some of that beanie flavor. The longer you let it cook, the less the beanie flavor you will have. And again, like with many other recipes and foods that we make, you can always adjust it. Maybe you really like that beanie flavor, so you don't cook your milk for very long, or you're not a fan, and so you cook it up to 2 hours. Let it simmer on the stove. Even if you have no intention of making tofu, homemade soy milk is very simple and delicious to enjoy. You get the benefits of the soy without any added fillers or chemicals you might find in store-bought brands. And it's just so fresh. You can add a little bit of pinch of salt, a pinch of vanilla, and a little bit of maple syrup, and it's just gonna be so delicious. So we're almost done squeezing out the soy milk from our pulp. I'm just gently squeezing and also turning the cheesecloth so that I can get some pressure to get the soy milk out. Okay, so I think we're about done. I've only been doing this for about 2 minutes, so it hasn't taken me that long. As much of the milk from the pulp out as you can or desire, you are ready for the next step. All right, so we're on to our next step. We are going to boil the soy milk. You will notice there is some foam on top. You can stir it in or you can also just remove it. So we'll just scoop it out. I don't have the best scooper for this. And just scoop it off the top. Let me just switch scoopers. Okay, so we're just gonna scoop some of the foam off. You don't have to, but it will improve the taste of your soy milk. So just as with any milk that you boil, whole milk, cow's milk, almond milk, it's important to stir it the whole time. You don't want the bottom to burn, and you also don't want the pot to boil over. So we're just gonna let this boil for about 5 minutes, and then we will turn it down and let it simmer for about 10 minutes. Give it a taste, and if it's not too beany, then we are ready for the next step. So we are going to let this boil and make sure to keep a close eye on it. Do not walk away from your milk while it's on boil. You will have foamy soy milk all over your stove. This part is important though. So let's come back in a few minutes and we'll touch base on where our milk is. All right, so we have boiled our soy milk for about 5 minutes and then it simmered for about 10 minutes, and it can simmer for longer if you like until it's the flavor you want it to be. So pour yourself a glass, enjoy. It is so delicious. It's great fresh when it's warm. You could add a pinch of salt, a pinch of vanilla, and some maple syrup, and you have a great, tasty, plant-based drink. It's even good just plain. And if you feel like, it's good, but it's kind of watery, instead of putting 5 cups of water, try 3.5 cups of water, maybe 4 cups of water when you make your soy milk, and that will give you a stronger soy flavor. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, subscribe so you can stay in the loop for all of our upcoming videos, and stay tuned because our next video, we're going to turn this delicious fresh soy milk into homemade tofu. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.